Welcome to today's webinar. We will be examining a day in the life of electrical companies like your business. In it, we'll be highlighting typical processes and procedures your employees perform daily, some common challenges your company may face in your current workflows, how new technologies can address some of these challenges, and last, some new ways to increase accountability, reduce overhead costs, take on more service requests, and ultimately increase your bottom line. I'm really excited for the opportunity to share some highlights and introduce our guest speaker. Before we get started, here's a few housekeeping items today. We are recording today's session, and we will share a link to everyone in the coming days. Also, we will address any questions towards the end of the session. Please use the chat feature to submit your questions at any time. Now, I would like to introduce you to Scott. Scott is our sales account manager with Axsoft. He's been with our company for almost 6 years, and he has 2 adorable Boston Terriers, Clutch and Sprocket. Thank you, Scott, for joining us today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to doing today's presentation. All right, so I'm going to take everyone through the daily life of an electrician or a electrical estimator as well. Now, both of these field service positions have a lot going on throughout their day. And we have worked with many companies on the electrical side, and then just a lot of field service companies in general who have employees out in the field. And what we see a lot is that throughout their day, right, your electricians and your estimators, they're going to be communicating with the office. They need to be tracking the project progress that they're working on, whether those are big projects they're on or just single ones, going into a residential home to do some work. But all of them together, they'll have to be logging hours, completing their paperwork, which is one of the biggest challenges we hear from many companies that we talk to, as well as creating and revising some estimates that may be done in the office by different personnel. And of course, the electricians and estimators are going to be operating tools and equipment that they're responsible for, both maintaining it throughout the workday as well as collecting it at the end of the day. That equipment will also have to be protected, throughout the night. And then, of course, there's always the compliance that they need to deal with, right? Maybe compliance with their business's own rules and regulations, or they may be state or federal ones as well. And then, of course, as I said in the beginning, communicating all this back with the office. Now, when you have so many different tasks you're juggling, it can be kind of hard to do it all on your own, keeping track of them every single day through every job. So we know that a lot of electricians face different challenges when they're preparing for a new project. That project, again, could be something that's going to take a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a month, or it may just be a project they're going to be working on throughout that one day for that one job that they're on. Some of the issues that they can come across is insufficient details regarding the project or job, such as what's required from it, right? This may be part of their technical knowledge. It could be the different parts they're going to need to be able to address the job appropriately. It may even be the number of crew members needed, at the location, the timing, and then what the project was actually estimated to cost versus what it actually costs to finish. And some other challenges we've heard come down to poor scheduling. Sometimes that could be just not having the right information regarding the employees needed for the job and a lot of the other items we just talked about. And then, of course, if a business is really busy and some of their compliance checklists are out of date, there may be new items that they need to address while they're working on these jobs that have kind of fallen by the wayside. And again, with them being so busy, it's hard to see where they are at the project and what they may be missing as they're going through their day. And we want to give kind of greater insight into that so that these items aren't missed. There's no going back to jobs to redo something that should have been done the first time. And we've learned that some of the crews and teams, there's better ways to prepare them for those projects. And I think we all kind of understand that, when you're going to do a job, if you know the tools you need, the parts you need, and some of the tasks you need to complete before you go into that job, the job goes a lot smoother when you have all of that lined out to you. And that's a big part of what we do with the electronic job dispatch orders and the digital forms, is giving you that insight So you know right off the bat all the steps you're going to need to complete for the job. That also includes automating and digitizing documents so your team can complete critical forms faster and more accurately. And that piece is huge. We hear from office managers and other personnel back at the office all the time that getting that document back quickly and having the information on it accurate is one of the biggest challenges they have. So far as it can even push back how long it takes them to invoice out customers, how they're invoicing, even sometimes what they're charging customers, because if they don't have all the information of the job performed, of course, it becomes difficult to accurate invoice for it. Some of the other issues we have heard is scheduling your crews in advance, as doing this, will help you service your customers faster and provide sufficient time for your teams to travel from one job site to another. Sticking with the challenges, when they're actually in the field and doing the work, some of the challenges you may come across is having to manually enter information on multiple documents, which can be time consuming. Some other complaints we've heard, is as your electricians are doing their work and they're checking different variables and values of the equipment that they're working on, right? They have customers coming up to them to talk to them and ask questions, and then you kind of have to remember, okay, what did I just last check and what were the results of it? Whereas if you're filling out a digital form in real time, you can just glance back to see where you were and of course move forward, after you've addressed your customers' questions. The ability to stay compliant, and both compliant and with safety operating procedures under relevant codes and regulations. With our software, you can actually build through decision logic, you can have more information populate. So if you're doing a check on a piece of equipment and the voltage or anything along those lines doesn't check out right, you can have a little box pop up to kind of let you know that something's not right, or you can fill in additional information as to why the voltage may be wrong, and you can add additional equipment to fix that, as well as keeping track of the tools that are being used throughout the day and equipment while on the job. And then of course, minimizing any risk of loss or theft. Now, how can teams' productivity and performance can be optimized in the field? Lots of ways to do this. And this is something we spend a lot of time talking about. Some of the big ones are completing forms digitally to reduce errors and delays, as well as costs associated with traditional paperwork, right? If you're buying paperwork and it's getting torn as they're doing their job, or we've even had some customers who have said that, they're electricians or other drivers going down the road and paperwork is flown out a window, or maybe you get some of your, the ketchup from your lunch on it. And you have to go back and refill out paperwork. You're just, wasting more money on that paperwork. Whereas if you move it into something digital, right, you don't have to worry about a digital form flying out a window or anything along those lines. And you're also able to provide digital versions of safety and regulation checklists. This ensures the documents are readily available and then easier to process, right? So it makes it much easier to open up your phone, review a document if you need to, versus going back to your truck, finding out which folder you put it into, grabbing the folder, reading through it, right? You're probably not carrying that stuff on your person, but of course your phone or your tablet, definitely you are. Moving into our TeamWorks platform, you can also track your inventory. You can view your valuable assets on a live view to see where everything is. And this is just allows you to better understand locations and then of course the conditions of these resources at all times. Now, what are some of the challenges that electricians experience when completing a project, right? We hear a lot about little or inaccurate inventory management, difficulty recording details from the completed job, as well as too much time spent on manually completing paperwork and wrapping up the project. Now, the piece on a little or inaccurate inventory management, this is something we hear a lot. I was recently on a call where the customer was discussing how they're doing their inventory now. And of course, they're dispatching their worker for their electrician out to residential homes. And sometimes they have parts on the truck, but even if those parts are on the truck, they do have a cost associated with it. Or sometimes the electrician needs to go over to a supply store like a Lowe's or Home Depot and pick up extra parts. And of course, when you're doing that, you're paying, closer to full retail from those locations. And the customer wanted to record, how much were we spending on these parts? How much was the electrician actually charging for it? And are they aware of what the difference in, profit and loss is between what they paid for, the gas it took for them to drive out there? and then back, of course, to the customer's location and then what they charged for it. And we were able to discuss different ways on the digital forms where you could actually input what you paid for it. You could input, something to show the cost of the electrician's time, right? Because of course, time is money. And then they could show how much the electrician charged for the part. And you'd essentially get a recap of, what your real profits were on that job, including all things like the time that the electrician was paid for, any service charges, and of course the parts too. So being able to collect all that in one form and see it up front helps the electrician to understand, how much they're making off of this, how much benefit and value they're bringing to their own company. Now, using Teamworks, we can help electricians streamline the project completion parts. So using the software and the app help them to better monitor and manage the equipment that they're using, the related condition, and then the automated tracking, right? If you have trailers or if you have vans full of electrical equipment and other items, right? If you don't know where those vans and equipment are, right, they're not doing you any good, even though they're costing you some value. It also allows them to document the project's expectations. This allows you to attach photos and more detailed documentation into the work orders and customer invoices. Of course, this is really important, one, for when you're going to be invoicing your customers, and then two, if you happen to have a job where you do need to go back to it, or maybe there's multiple people working on this project, being able to review all the information that someone did previously, up until your part, certainly helps you better understand what next steps you're going to be taking. And of course, finally, you can digitize and streamline your final protocols for a smoother job transition process, as you're moving it off to another employee, or maybe there's another crew coming in to work on it after you've completed your piece to it. And then this slide I liked a lot. This is something we've been focusing on more because we talk to a lot of office managers, and the amount of information they gave us about how long it takes to get their paperwork back, how long it takes them to do their invoicing, and then how much really chasing around they're doing to employees out in the field when they forget to do information or they forget to return their paperwork, or maybe they've missed some sections on it, really slows down how long they're working on each project. So what we've heard is that there can be poor communications with their field-based employees, and it makes sense to implement simplified communication channels where our office and dispatchers and electricians are included, so everyone knows the status and needs of existing and new projects, right? And we love seeing this with the scheduler section inside Teamworks, because you will see your calendar of all your jobs. You'll see in real time what the status of those jobs are, as the jobs on the calendar will update and change colors and information as the job moves along. Sorry about that. And then of course there is costly and time-consuming paperwork processes. So when you digitize and automate the data collection, so key data can be immediately captured, documented, and shared with the office, we can then integrate that with third-party applications. So maybe as they're filling out their work orders and their forms out in the field, we can have that information flow directly into the software you're using for invoicing. And then, of course, one of the bigger issues we hear all the time is having clunky and confusing timekeeping methods, right? We have customers who are doing their job dispatching, or were doing their job dispatching, and even their payroll using Outlook emails for it, or maybe Gmail emails for it. Some of them were updating a spreadsheet into Dropbox, where everyone was required to put in their times for each job. And you can imagine how difficult that is while your employees are out in the field, balancing the work they're doing, driving from one location to another, making sure they're getting their lunches in. So when you put all these different features into one platform that gives you that transparency, so you can see their timekeeping in one screen, and then you can see all their forms completed, or all their GPS travel, all in one neat little timeline, it really helps you understand the picture and story of what that worker has been doing throughout the day, week, or month. And then of course having timekeeping feature, which, not only records their clock in and outs, but it's grabbing GPS locations for them, so you know where they are when they clock in, right, what job site they're on. And then you can watch as they travel from one site to another, just clocking in from one to another, or clocking in throughout their day. But getting rid of the clunky and confusing timekeeping methods will really speed up the accuracy of what you're paying to your employees and the timeliness of it as well. All right, some additional ways we have tried to help office managers, right? We get talked to a lot about little accountability among employees, right? If you don't have the right tools in place, how can you, review the work that they've done, make sure they're doing it efficiently, in a way that is bringing additional value to your company. But you can use tracking tools and digital timesheets so schedulers and managers can ensure your electricians are where they need to be while they're on the clock. An ability to service more customers on demand. This is big. With this also, we hear a lot how we've helped companies to get in additional jobs, throughout the day, week, or month. But you do this by introducing an online scheduling system to increase customer responsiveness, provide more accurate service windows, and ensure your team can respond to scheduling changes and emergencies. Right. So if you're doing this through Outlook or text messaging, right, you have someone call in and they have, an emergency needs to be addressed, and you're trying to message everyone out in the field. You don't really know where they are or really how far along in the project they are. It becomes really difficult to schedule the right person to handle the new job that's come up. Whereas with Teamworks, and you're looking at the scheduler screen, you can see what jobs everyone has, when they're estimated to be complete. And then of course you can see what status they're in. So you could very realistically look at the schedule, and you'll see one of your employees just completed a job about 15 minutes early. You can see the job changed to blue, so you know it's complete. And you can immediately reach out to them, whether you want to do that through messaging through the platform, a text message, or the way I would do it is you just take that new order of the person who called in, and you could just drop it right on their schedule. And that's going to go real time to the app on their phone, say, hey, you have a new job. Here's the address. Here's all the information they need to complete that job. And then off your employee goes with no downtime, no hunting around for them, just, sending out the order and easy peasy. And of course, another way to help your office managers would be to help address rising costs and, get rid of antiquated processes, right? Digitize all that paperwork, digitize their work orders. And that way you're getting that information back in real time so that you can start invoicing, you can start doing inventory management and so forth right then and there, instead of waiting for a pile of paperwork to come in on a Friday, or, maybe it comes in the next Monday, and then you're just playing catch up that whole week, whereas you could have been addressing everything in real time. Right? And how do we do that? Right? We do that through Teamworks, of course, powered by Axsoft. And our software is designed to manage your workforce with just one solution to boost productivity and profitability, right? This way you're not jumping through multiple logins, right? You're not opening this platform to try and get this one to talk to another. You're just doing everything through one pane of glass. And the features inside of there, you're looking at digital dispatching, wireless forms, mobile timekeeping. Of course, you have GPS and handset tracking, messaging, and then even mobile payments. And what this looks like is these are your Teamwork app, right? This is what your field employees are going to see. You can see the difference between how a wireless form looks compared to job dispatching. But some of the items I really like in this is, we understand that it's your workers in the field who are going to be using the app. And you can see we have spaced out all the text fields and the check boxes because we know that they're going to have equipment in their hands. They're going to have gloves on, right? We want to make sure this is really easy for them to read and see where they're going. Even under the dispatch one for Williams residents, you can click on the address and it's immediately going to give them directions. They can see what their start time is, what their expected end time is, all your GPS tracking, and then your timekeeping as well. Right, sorry for the pause. My allergies are kicking up a lot as I'm talking. So we put in a case study in here of an electrical company that wanted to cut back on paper costs by digitizing their invoices while they're dispatching jobs. And with the forms from Teamworks, the company was able to go into a paperless process. This initiative reduced their expenses and inefficiencies for that company, such as delays in getting information back from the field. It even helped the office managers to be able to quickly and digitally provide electricians and estimators with key information about current and new jobs. The crews were then able to perform repairs, installations, and more dynamically and efficiently increase their ROI and overall service quality to their customers. And of course, your customer satisfaction is improved due to more accurately being able to provide your timelines and your estimates. And another case study we had, revolved around scheduling and tracking. An electrical company wanted a way to digitally dispatch new work orders to their electricians and their estimators. Now, this helps them maximize their workforce's time at job site, and then, of course, service more customers. And the more customers you're serving, the more revenue you have coming in. With digital dispatching on the Teamworks platform, the company was able to schedule new installations in advance each day, allowing them to distribute their workloads more evenly and serve their clients faster. The GPS tracking on Teamworks helped raise the accountability and the driver safety when electricians use company vehicles to travel to work locations. And of course, if anyone has looked at my own GPS tracking in there for my car, you would see that I need to be a lot more accountable for my safety driving as well. And it's really great to see looking in there, and you can see the aggressive driving alerts, the stop alerts. And then not only can you address that, but after you've addressed it, you can watch as those slowly stop showing up, and you can see that they're treating the vehicles much more respectfully. They're going to use brakes less, they may have less wear and tear on it as well. And then these electricians were able to spend more time on site simply by being able to receive real-time job information from their mobile devices, right? Cut down the amount of times they're stepping off the work site to call the office to get more information, or even in some regards having to drive back to get updated information or additional parts that they should have had off the bat, right? And that would have been able to be done if the information was a little bit more accurate that was sent to them. All right, so not only will Teamworks incorporate your dispatching, your timekeeping, and everything along those lines, one of the things we here at Axoff pride ourselves are on the concierge level assistance. So we don't sell the software and simply say, here you go, good luck figuring it out. That's not what we're about. We have a dedicated customer experience team who's there to offer premier benefits to help you gain an immediate and impactful return on your investment. And some of the benefits included in here is the free API integration. That's what's going to allow you to take what information coming in from the forms and your work orders and just seamlessly send that over to the program, right? Maybe you're using QuickBooks Online to do your invoicing. And that makes a huge difference when you can have your employee out in the field, right? It's 3 o'clock on a Wednesday and they just completed the form. That form goes back into Teamworks in real time, and then it pipes it right into QuickBooks, so your invoice and additional information is being generated right then and there, compared to what we hear a lot about having to wait till Friday when everyone comes back with their forms, and then manually typing all the forms into QuickBooks or whatever platform you're using. And of course, you're chasing down your employees to get more information that they may have not put in there, or something maybe isn't as accurate. You're going to get a personalized onboarding, right? That's the initial training is an hour through a webinar, very much like what we're doing today, but they can ask for additional training as needed. You also gain access to the module training, after hours weekend support, monthly account analysis. This will let you know how many of your vehicles have tracked, what the usage on your account looked like. That way, if you see, some vehicles aren't being used, you can help put those back into rotation. And of course, weekly and quarterly reports too. The monthly app usage reports are there as well, right? If you have an employee who's just, not really logging into app to finish their work, you can address it ahead of time. even if you haven't caught it in the portal, because we're going to send you a report about it as well. And we just like to help automate that item, right? You don't have to always be diving into the portal when you can schedule these reports to come out. And to help everyone start driving a nice return on investment today for your organization, we've started to offer a free 14-day trial of Teamworks for you to get in there, take a look, better understand the form builder, the dispatcher, how the app works on everyone's phones. And then during that time, it can really help you prep for the implementation of the platform before you roll it out to all of your employees. All right. So I've been doing a lot of the talking today. Are there any questions or items that have come up?
Thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences thus far. We have a couple of questions. First, is Teamworks designed to work for residential companies, commercial companies, small, medium, large size companies? Is it a scalable solution as well?
Yeah, oh, wonderful question. So yeah, absolutely. The customizable features of Teamworks makes it work just as well for electricians that focus on commercial versus those that are focused on residential. The form builder is very flexible. So, we know there's a lot of similarities between the two, but there's also going to be a lot of unique processes and items that are specific to those doing commercial versus residential. And the software is very able to adapt to that and allow them to use it either way. Or if your business services both, certainly you can build individual forms that are specific for residential. And then of course your commercial. So yes, absolutely is great for both both types of business.
Great. And you talked a lot about forms, and you mentioned especially how office managers, sometimes the project managers on Fridays will be essentially chasing down their employees for paperwork. What are some of the typical paper-based forms which Teamworks can digitize for a company?
Yeah, absolutely. So from the get-go, right, one of the more common forms they're probably using is some version of an estimate. So the estimators show up at the work site, they take a look at everything that the customers are requesting or need, and they need to put that into an estimate. And you can absolutely build that as a form inside of Teamworks, so they can do the estimate right there on their handset. When they submit the form, you can have it go right to the customer as well as into the portal itself. So that way, those in the back office that are managing it are seeing the same real-time information as the customer. And then as they go through and they do the work that they're doing, they'll be able to have a form, right there to fill out, so the customer knows what items they actually completed once they agreed to the job. This can include descriptions of the work done. It can certainly include, the different voltages and amperage that they're doing as they're testing different equipment. You can put in barcodes. So if any of the equipment has a barcode on it, they can just scan that barcode and grab that information right from it. You can include pictures. So you can do before and after pictures. You can do a signature field so that your customers can sign off once the work has been completed or sign off on the estimate itself. We have these label fields in there so that if there's any terms and conditions you want read before they sign on it, you can absolutely do that. And we also see a lot of people using our form transferability. So if you're working on a job that will have multiple people on it, you can have one person show up and do the work that's all on page one of the form that they're working on. And then they can transfer it off to another person who's going to be able to review that information, but not edit it. And then they can go ahead and enter the information for the work that they're doing as well. Outside of that, I've seen change order forms that customers have used for it. We've seen incident reporting forms. Certainly, even our own traveling salespeople have car accident reports, right? So if your electrician is stopped at Lowe's and they're picking up some items, and they come out and they can see someone backed into their truck, right? They can just fill that form out on the go and then submit it back to the office so that they know there'll be some repair ready for that. And as the electrician is, finishing their day, the office can schedule up any repairs that need to be made. Very flexible. So I'm sure there's a dozen other forms that are used, various from one business to another, and we can absolutely help you recreate those.
And the last question we have pertains to customer loyalty and customer satisfaction. So many companies are aiming to grow before the end of the year and definitely into the new year. How can the solution help companies enhance current customers' experiences, but also set them up for success by freeing up the team to take on new orders and new jobs?
Yep. Yeah. So the new orders and the new jobs, that's big. I mean, when you're using electronic scheduler and dispatching, right? That real-time information into the jobs that they're working on completing can absolutely help you book, an additional job a day, an additional job a week, right? And this is per employee, so you know what your average job costs are, and if you're have 4, 5, 6, 7 employees out in the field and you're getting an extra job per each one, right? You're really watching not only your own revenue increase, but you're also increasing the relationship with your customers, right? You're building your customer base with it. And then even outside of just building up that base, so you're helping more customers by being more efficient. Having everything collected in one portal really helps you organize that information. So instead of having someone show up to a job site, not really knowing what to expect as they talk to the customer, not being prepared with parts, so they're there, they talk to them, they say, oh, I don't really have the parts, let's schedule this another day, or, I'll be back in a couple hours after going to the store. You can give that information to them ahead of time so that they know they have the right equipment while they're going to that job, and they already have the parts that they need and they know what those parts cost. And it's just going to be a better customer experience where they can show up at jobs, say, okay, I see what you're looking for, I have everything I need, let me complete this for you now, and then of course the customer pays and you start invoicing them right off the bat. We've seen other customers who will do those two items I just talked about, but then they also will include a link to what we call our public forum. So you can do like you could basically create a survey in our system and it will generate a hyperlink that you could include on the invoice or the email you send to your customer. And then you can get that feedback from them about what they thought about the job, right? Hopefully everyone's marking 10s because it was a really good experience since the electrician knew exactly what needed to be done. But if there's anything they can give tips or that on, or say, hey, I would have liked to seen this, you'll get that feedback right from your customer. And there's no pressure on it, so that you're getting more honest feedback from them. And of course, that helps you to continue to adjust how you're addressing customers and providing even better service to it. And then of course, on the scalability side, Teamworks is a really good fit for, I have some accounts that are just, 2, 3, 4 licenses or users out in the field to, we have upwards of thousands of users on some accounts, tens of thousands. So you can see how it really scales from one business to another. And again, you're not left out on your own, right? Our implementation process will have us training your back office. It'll have us helping train some of your field employees. And then as your company grows, we can provide additional training to them as well.
Scott, we did have
Great.
one question from the live question and answer chat about whether Teamworks is available worldwide, specifically either Canada or Mexico as well.
Oh yeah, wonderful question. We have numerous accounts in both. I actually handled Canada myself for quite a while, a couple of years, and then business has picked up enough that we actually have 3 people that cover the whole area. And Mexico is the same way. Our software is designed to, obviously work on a computer in the office through a web link, so it doesn't matter where you're located. And then the Teamworks app actually works on just about every Android and Apple iOS phone that's out there, including tablets. So being in Canada or Mexico doesn't change anything about it. It's going to work just as well for you there as it does our US-based customers. But yeah, we have accounts in both countries now, so absolutely no problem at all.
Excellent, thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Scott, for sharing your experiences with us today, letting us know how happy, satisfied, growing, successful electrical companies use our Teamworks app. We do hope that for everyone who called in today, that they found today's webinar presentation helpful, enlightening, and also some food for thought on how technology can streamline workflows and boost productivity and profitability. We look forward to hearing from those who are interested in a custom demo, as well as taking advantage of our free trial offer. Thank you again for your time and interest today.